Good morning, everyone. Well, rain, freezing rain, sleet, and snow. We're going to see it all in Iowa today. In fact, we're already seeing all of it early this morning. Check out 8 a.m. It's rain coming down in Burlington. In the purple, that's where the freezing rain and sleet is. And in the blue, that's the snow. Now, I'll also say about this shade of purple, if temperatures are in the mid to upper 20s, it's most likely going to be sleet coming down, though freezing rain is also a possibility. But if temperatures are around 31, 32, that means freezing rain is more likely than the sleet. So Quad Cities do have to mention during the morning hours, there is a brief window where our temperature is going to be sitting around 31, 32, where it'll be rain coming down but then turning to ice. But it is going to be short-lived for the Quad Cities, because look what happens when we jump ahead to noon. Our temperature rising to 33, so changing over to just rain. No more freezing rain, but in the low 30s, Iowa City, Dubuque, most likely freezing rain, and mid to upper 20s, that's most likely going to be sleet coming down. And notice that the area of just snow, not the freezing rain and sleet, limited to Mason City, Sioux City, and up to the north and west. By the way, this afternoon, gusts 30, 35 miles per hour, so windy for everyone in Iowa. So definitely a wind chill factor. Let's take a look at 4 o'clock. We're still talking about widespread activity, but notice rain showing up in even more locations. And you see those shades of orange showing up, though? I think it's mostly going to be showers. Temperatures mainly in the mid-30s. I'm not going to rule out a couple of thunderstorms popping up and producing some heavy rain in spots. I don't think it's going to be widespread, but and no severe storms, but a couple of thunderstorms in the southeast of our state, that's a possibility. And again, Denison, Fort Dodge, that's most likely going to be sleet. Waterloo, Dubuque, that's most likely going to be freezing rain. Meanwhile, Sioux City, Mason City, most likely going to be snow, though a little bit of sleet maybe mixed in Mason City at this point as well. Now, by the time we get to 8 o'clock, I'm not going to call it widespread activity anymore. It's going to be scattered activity. Notice some gaps are showing up, but still dealing with rain, freezing rain, sleet, and snow. Fortunately, winds starting to come down at this point, just breezy at this point. Average gusts around 20 miles per hour. Now let's take a look at midnight. We're just going in 4-hour increments here. Still scattered activity, still rain, south and east, freezing rain and sleet, and still that area of snow. 4 a.m., I think mostly dry across the southern part of the state. The scattered activity now limited to the northern half of the state, and there's not going to be much wind at this point, just a light breeze no matter where you are. Gusts around 15 miles per hour. Notice still the mix. But at 8 a.m., the chance for the freezing rain, the sleet, and the rain going away, it's just going to be snow. But I think we're done with the precipitation in the southern half of the state. And at this point, 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, we're probably only talking about isolated snow showers in the northern half of the state. By lunchtime, I think it's just going to be a few flurries in the northeastern corner of the state. A lot of us already dry. Really windy tomorrow. Gusts 35, 40 miles per hour. So about the same in the western part of the state, but even windier in the eastern part of the state. And look at the temperature difference still. Look at that temperature of 8 in Sioux City, but still 34 in Burlington as a cold front slowly makes its way across the state. Finally, 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, even in the northeastern corner of the state, we are done with the flurries. Finally, completely dry. So let's talk about how much freezing rain. This is just looking at freezing rain, not sleet. This is just freezing rain, the flat ice that has the biggest impact. It's easier to drive on sleet, though that can still make roads slick, but freezing rain is the worst. Unfortunately, just a few hundredths of an inch expected. Quad Cities, Osceola, Denison, but what we're really highlighting is Des Moines, Waterloo, Dubuque. I think most common ice totals are going to be around 1/10 of an inch, but there could be a few spots to see as much as 0.4 inches of freezing rain. That's most likely around the Dubuque area. But anywhere in this zone, from Des Moines, Waterloo over Dubuque, anywhere where you have the possibility of seeing 1/10 of an inch to 0.4 inches, this is where we expect the biggest impacts. This is where we're talking about widespread icy roads, and this is enough ice where it's not just a thin glaze, but this starts to actually weigh down tree branches, and if those tree branches hit a power line, yeah, then we're talking about isolated power outages, and those could turn into numerous power outages, particularly around the Dubuque area, where it really looks like that's going to be the sweet spot for the ice accumulation. But isolated power outages for Des Moines and Waterloo, and definitely a lot of icy roads. Meanwhile, where you just have a few hundredths of an inch of freezing rain, it's probably going to be limited to bridges and overpasses, those icy spots. We're just talking about a very thin glaze on windshields and plants. And then we'll wrap up with the snow, and I honestly think for the southeastern half of the state, it is not going to happen, staying snow-free. And even look at all the places where we're only expecting a dusting to an inch: Waterloo, Des Moines, Fort Dodge, Denison. But for the northwestern part of the state, where it's going to be mostly snow, maybe a little bit of sleet for Sioux City and Mason City, that's where the snow is still going to be able to pile up. We're looking at another 2 to 3 inches of snow to go in Sioux City, 3 to 4 inches in Mason City. And in that darkest shade of blue, in the most northern part of the state, and up in the northwestern corner, that dark shade of blue is another 5 to 6 inches of snow.